to the Business Blueprint Podcast, where we take you on an exciting adventure through our triumphs and challenges and failures in creating and maintaining a thriving 6, 7, and 8-figure business. Get ready to dive into our strategies, decisions, and yes, even valuable lessons we've learned from our missteps. But that's not all. We'll also bring you industry-leading guests who will provide you with their priceless insights and wisdom. Stay tuned because the captivating journey of the Business Blueprint begins right now.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Malone, and welcome to the Business Blueprint, where we talk about all things business, the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, the ugly. Today, I'm joined by my partner, Charles Hatley, and we also have Mary Fisher from Five Rings Financial, and we're going to talk about growing your business through events and networking. So, Mary, can you first just give us a little introduction about you and Five Rings Financial?
Thanks, Rebecca. Thanks, Charles. Love being here. My name is Mary Fisher. I'm at a company called Five Rings Financial, and we're basically financial representatives for some of the most important financial services companies on the planet. And what we help people do is understand how their money works, and in many cases, how it can work better for them. Currently, we're only in the United States, but there's a lot of people in the United States who just don't know enough about money. They make a lot of money, but they'd sure love to learn more. So we, as we're going to talk about today, do tons of series of educational and networking events where we bring people together and we teach them these fundamentals. And for those who choose to, they come and they ask to be a client, or they explore it further with us, and in some cases become a business partner.
Awesome. So what has been kind of your biggest challenge when you were just getting started with this company and you were starting from square one? What's been the biggest challenge for you?
My ego. And I think maybe some business owners will understand that too. When you're starting a new business, you want to know everything, and what you'll have to do is make a really good decision about what it is that you do already know, what asset you can bring or what assets you can bring to the business, but then really, really deciding who you're going to learn from and mentor with. And I was very, very fortunate that I had met our CEO, Mike Wilk, back in 2011, and he agreed to mentor me. So I thought this could really work. And so I would say the only time my business was in trouble was when I thought I knew better than my mentor. And that's a whole story for another time. But I would say that's part of it. Certainly, cash flowing a business is a reality, a math and science reality that we have to deal with. Far too many people don't have appropriate cash flow. And as you guys know, growing businesses eat cash. So understanding how to appropriately incubate the business, have enough cash to do what we needed to do to expand it. And we have a model that worked for that. But I would say that was just something I had to learn. Plus, market conditions, products, nuances, and then, things change like the economy, the world, et cetera.
Right. And so how long has it been that you've been with Five Rings at this point?
I met Mike Wilk in January of 2011, actually 1/11/11. Isn't that cool? January 11th, 2011. So since then.
That's awesome. So you've seen some kind of ups and downs, like you said, with the market. How have you adapted with your company in going up and going down and dealing with those shifts?
Yeah, thanks. So many, and all of us do that. I think part of it is staying focused on learning all the time, being an ongoing learner, someone who's hungry for that. I naturally am. I went to college to become a journalist, so I've always loved getting the story behind the story and what are the facts. So that would be a part of it, and really understanding people. I think some of the most unhappy business owners are the ones who feel like they should know how people should be, and that's the greatest disappointment of all. So coming up with a way to stay ahead of the wave and never have all your eggs in one basket. Doing the best yourself, doing the best myself with my own practice, helping my own clients, and then helping other people get started and understanding it takes time, and people come in a variety of shapes and flavors and personalities. So really figuring out how to serve our clients and our partners best, that's ongoing.
You talked about ego earlier, and I love talking about ego and business owners because one of my favorite things is I don't have Facebook anymore. I deleted it a long time ago, but it was seeing everybody out there claim to be CEO of something. Like I'm CEO of this, or, I heard somebody the other day talking about I'm the CEO of my household. And I was like, do you know what a CEO is? Like, do you want to dig into exactly what a CEO is? And when we were getting started in our organization, I will tell anybody, I made up my title because it doesn't matter. My title absolutely doesn't matter. I was reading on a flight this morning, I was reading a John Maxwell book. And he was talking about, the quote from the CEO of GE, who was talking about, training his replacement. And he said, the guy that I chose was not the person that I should have chosen because it was the guy that had all the answers. And you can't run $1 billion company if you have all the answers. And then that got me thinking about something else. And, talking about education is, there's people that pay a lot of money to go to business schools to learn what Henry Ford did, who had a 7th grade education. And we still celebrate Henry Ford's accomplishments to this day and look at the Ford Motor Company and everything that he did. And people are paying to go to business school to learn what a guy with a 7th grade education did, a guy that at one point was actually questioned by Congress because they didn't think he was smart enough to run the biggest company in the world. So when you're talking to other business owners, one, how easy is it to identify somebody who likely will not succeed because of their ego? And number two, how do you help somebody out of that egocentric space?
Gosh, I love this so much. So first of all, I love Jack Welch, right? I love John Maxwell. I love that you quoted them. One of my favorite Jack Welch's is, if we all sit around looking at our belly buttons, I think he used the word navel, but not everybody does this, what are we going to get done? So I think, there's, obviously merit and a lot to be credited to people who go on for additional education, whatever that looks like. But to assume because you have a degree that you're qualified to run a business is a joke. It's a joke because there's so many other aspects. For people, when I identify people who are business owners, the first thing is there are some people who call themselves business owners, but they're really like if you use Tony Robbins has a way that he describes different business owners: entrepreneur, an artist, a manager, leader. So what I try to do is figure out kind of who is this person. Sometimes they found themselves in business. You guys see this all the time because they're good at something, right? They're an architect and they don't want to work for somebody else anymore, or they are a plumber and they figured out a way to do their own thing. So whatever that business owner is, sometimes they come into it as an expert in that area, but they're not necessarily expert in the numbers. Sometimes people come and they're solely an entrepreneur and they buy into a business because they want to be a business owner. So first is kind of identifying what got them there, right? Who are you? What value do you bring to your marketplace uniquely or especially? And how do you actually run a profitable business on that? I have to say, I'm probably pretty lucky. I haven't run into, my own ego is my biggest problem. And so I'm vigilant about that. But when it comes to other people, I think if they're stuck, I identify when they're not listening, when they're not hungry for that other area. If they can't say, yeah, I'm an amazingly talented plumber, but I'm really challenged in the financial world, can you help me? And then I offer them help and they don't do it. That's probably just because they're being a human being who's too busy. But if I insist and they don't do it, well, it's okay. You're going to run that the way you're going to run it. There are some people who call themselves in business and they're not making any money. So we got to look at the numbers, right? What does this look like? And I have many, many clients who are business owners and they were at a certain level. And just because of our perspective coming in and asking more questions, I think it's asking questions, which is the key to so much in life and their own self-discovery. I have people all the time say, nobody's ever asked me that before, Mary. My brother's my financial advisor and he never asked about the future of my business. And I'm thinking what are people doing? But I'm genuinely interested in people. That's our philosophy. First there, you guys are the same. So sometimes these ideas and third-party stories and other people that we follow will give them a bright idea to scale or maybe not to scale. Right? What is it? So I think identifying what they're good at and helping them and, identify where the money comes from is huge. When I have a new business partner in my own world, it's really easy to identify when the ego's too much is they do all the talking. And sometimes they do all the talking because they're excited. They're tickled. They want to show me who they are. I get it. But really, the successful people are the quiet ones. And I got that from my CEO. He's one of the greatest listeners I've ever met in my life. I mean, we have an hour-long meeting with a client or a potential business partner, and he'll ask a few questions. And if they're talking, he's not trying to edge in to get his word in. It's like, okay. The good news about those kind of meetings is when someone tells you that, they tell you everything. And then sometimes they think you're the most brilliant person in the world because you listen to them. That's ironic, isn't it? But I think ego, if they're humble enough, humble, hungry, and smart, that's what we're looking for. It's a Pat Lencioni book, the ideal team player. But if they're willing to learn, right? If they're willing, then I'm all in. If they're unwilling, that's like, you might know better than me, but clearly there's no space for me to help you. And sometimes we have that even with clients, when whatever kind of client, it's like, no, I'm absolutely going to do this because that's what they said on the TV. Okay, got it. I'm not here to change your mind about that. I'm here to show you what's available, and then you have the right to choose.
Yeah. You said staying quiet, and I was reminded about, being in different business groups, two different stories. One, somebody's like, oh yeah, so-and-so's my mentor. And I'm like, man, you probably shouldn't let the loudest person in the room be your mentor. You might should have went to the quietest person in the room, because unfortunately I know the loudest person in the room, and that is not a good mentor.
It's funny.
And then I was saying about this thing, I was going over with somebody, we were talking about total owner benefit and net profit. And I was trying to explain the inverse ratio, that as your company grows, your total owner benefit is going to go down and your net profit goes down, but the actual number gets a lot bigger. I was trying to explain, like, do you think Jeff Bezos has 100% TOB? No, Jeff Bezos has like 0.001% TOB.
That's right.
And this person just could not fathom it. So while everybody else was sitting there and like trying to calculate it, this person jumped up and was like, I wouldn't even work in a business for that. When I was doing percentages, I'm like, you're telling me that you wouldn't work for $1 million a year take home? That's more than your business made last year.
Exactly.
And then I was the jerk for pointing that out.
Yeah.
And I was like, the loudest person in the room is sitting here exclaiming they would never work for that percentage, but they couldn't think beyond like, hey, that's actually over $1 million that's in your pocket, which is more than what your company made last year. And everybody else, I mean, I have the problem of, I will actually point out people. I'll be like, hey, this is where you're wrong. So you wouldn't do that? Like, I think you would.
Yes.
And everybody thinks I'm the jerk for that. So
no,
I do like to listen to
well, and I will tell you, you're not the jerk for that, because somebody's listening, and somebody got that lesson, even though it wasn't the person. It was like, somebody's listening like that. That's right. What was it? J. Paul Getty, who said, I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts rather than 100% of my own, and said, oh, that's greedy. No, that's business. That's brilliance. That's leverage. That's, if what you do is important to offer in the marketplace, if you help people with your service, with your company, with your product, then you have a responsibility to make sure that you duplicate that and have as many people have access to that. Like you guys have done so amazingly well. And so your responsibility changes. But if this is who you're going to be, no matter what the end of your life, you're going to have a this, and then you're going to have a that. So good for you for pointing it out. And I do find a lot of times people are a no immediately. And then as long as I let them save face, like, listen, we can talk about it anytime, but I'm going to help you by debating you, they will come back to me and say, thank you. Thank you for that. And I've thought about what you said. In fact, just like 2 weeks ago, we had the funniest meeting. I was working with one of my partners who's from this industry. She came to work with us because she loved our model. And she has a client down in Florida. And she said, I just can't believe she didn't move forward yet. I was like, people are on their own schedule. Don't worry. So this young lady in her early 40s requested a visit. We were on Zoom, and she said, Mary, Melissa, I just want to celebrate. This is a year anniversary from the first time we sat down. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for not ignoring me. Thank you for keeping me in the loop. And thank you for not pressuring me. I'm ready. And we did much more for her than she would have done a year ago. So it's sort of like, I always think, this is what I know, but I'm open to knowing what I don't know,
Yeah.
Awesome, Charles. I like you in my life. This is good.
So you've built a lot of your business around like networking and referrals and just meeting people. How do you kind of organize and figure out which things are successful and cut out the extra?
Hardest question to answer, you have different phases in life and in business. And So when I was getting started in 2011, I was in a couple of networking groups and I went everywhere I could. And I wasn't out there like a dog panting. I was out there looking for leaders. I was looking for that quiet sage in the room. I was looking for, interesting people. I was looking to make a connection. I think people sometimes do networking like when I say a networking blitz, they think that means like go hand out cards like a dealer in Vegas. And no. It's like, the philosophy is listen, learn, and connect, and then be patient, right? Relationships aren't like a microwave oven. You can connect like quickly, sometimes there's a great energy, but the rest of the story has got to have time to play out. So I think figuring out where you belong, where you're comfortable, where you're going to go, where you're going to be elevated. I don't want to hang out with people who are as successful at my level. I want to hang out with people who are much more successful than me because I'll learn. Then there are places where I go where there's people that are not as successful as I am, where if I can be used for good, I want to be used for good. So there's like, where can I provide value and where can I get value, I think is a little bit of a filter. Not ever over promising, really making commitments like in 90-day or 6-month cycles. When you're like, oh, I'm going to be here for the rest of my life. That's just, everybody knows it's BS. Even your own brain does, right? It's a belief system thing. So choosing the where and the when, choosing the family schedule. I'm a mom. And when I started this business, I was talking with my CEO and he said, listen, I think you could lead the women's program and more on the East Coast. And be a great example of a mom, right? A great example of this person. And I thought that sounded really good, but I felt like I was cheating on him when I was putting Matthew on the bus. I'm like, are you okay? If he's like, no, design your life. So that's another part of networking is take charge and show up. Whatever your worries are, leave them in the trunk of the car. Get clear about who you are and what your value proposition is. And go and see if you meet somebody. And when you ask them what they do first, eventually they're going to ask you what you do. And when they ask you, don't be the smartest person in the room. Just have a little value to offer them. And then if you want them in your circle or put them in a follow-up queue, that's one of the things I think new business owners mistake is how to network. And I think how to network is expose yourself to as many people as possible with the most succinct, accurate message of who you are as possible, but really become somebody people like and trust. In law and money, trust is a major issue. They're trusting you with the future of their life, their family, their children. They're trusting me with the future of their finances, you too. So that's not something you earn that way. I think another place to network, another way to network is ask for introductions from people that you know and trust. Hey, Rebecca, where would you suggest? I've just started this business or I'm 5 years in and I think I need to meet some new people. Who are you connected to? Who would you introduce me to? And because I love learning, by the way, I was not an A student, so don't make that mistake, but I love learning. I just think there's so much to learn. Classes, there's so many places you could go to class and just make some great acquaintances, whether it's a recreational interest or professional interest.
That's awesome. So you have pretty big events that you host. Tell us about some of the inspiration behind those and kind of what they're all about.
Okay, awesome. Well, we have this book called Wine, Women, and Wealth. We literally wrote a book on it. And my business partner, Denise Aaron, lived in California when our company was very small and in Colorado. Denise moved to San Diego and wanted to get people to our workshops, How Money Works. The Money 101, wonderful. Actually, it's called Money 101, excuse me. Money 101. So she wanted to get them to Money 101. But what she found is that women would not come without a friend to the Money 101. It's kind of, women were tribal people. I consider myself independent. It's more fun to meet a friend there. Anyway, she decided to start a women's networking group, unlike a lot out there where you pay to belong and there's requirements and that, and not that there's anything wrong with those. That's one paradigm. But she said, I'm going to do this for free. And she's in California where wine is, life there. So she started Wine, Women, and Wealth. And what she did was invited 12 to 15 wonderful ladies from different businesses, said, we're going to have a little wine, we're going to have a little networking, and we're going to teach you a little bit about money. And these very wonderful women with varying levels of ambition, but certainly a belief in themselves came, and that launched. And so now we do that all across the country. And it's been amazing. I mean, it's just a great community. Again, it's free. Our visitors don't pay anything to be a part of it. And people are scratching their heads like, how do you afford to do it? And it's a great business model for us because it builds goodwill. It plants a seed in the community. Women who come, want to bring other women. And of course, we've had to trademark it because it's been attempted to be stolen many times, but, often imitated, but never duplicated, right? So there's something. And we're looking for leaders. That's who I look for in a networking meeting. That's who I'm looking for in life. Who's a leader in their community? So leaders show up at these things and bring their women, and it's been phenomenal. So I think that's kind of my secret sauce. I mean, how hard is it to invite somebody to a wonderful event with wonderful people? Now, if it becomes like a massive sales event, people wouldn't want to come. So there's almost like an agreement that it's like a super safe space. That phrase is overused too much, but it really is like come as you are. And the people who are a little too much, they end up sorting themselves out. So we never even have to do anything about that. And then we do our money 101s and we do money, mommy and me. How do we get the education into the community? And what we learned with moms, a lot of times when they have little ones, it's really nice if I can bring the baby with me and I don't have to find a babysitter. So any chance we can get to bring community together and educate people on some things that mostly we're not taught, was certainly not taught in school, but mostly, we have one or two advisors, but maybe they didn't tell us everything. It's a great opportunity to do that.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And if folks want to learn some more about you or about your company, where should they go to get more info?
Awesome. My website is solveforlife, SOLVEFORLIFE.com, which is what we do. All my contact information is there. And if you are an Instagrammer, you can follow Middle Class Millionaires, which is really the whole idea behind that is you might as well be a millionaire if you're going to survive the middle class. And we help you to do that. So you guys, thank you so much for having me here. And for all of the business owners and entrepreneurs, I think business is a spiritual game. Many top people say that. So congratulations to the both of you on expanding your firm to serve so many people. And for all of you listening today, congratulations. Keep going, keep growing. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And if you guys like this content, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this insightful and entertaining, be sure to hit subscribe below and join us on social media to get more insight into what we are going through each and every day.